What's up everyone, and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be taking a look at AWS EC2, or Amazon Elastic Compute. So cloud computing is experiencing a huge boom of adopters, and it's estimated that 70% of all businesses rely on the cloud, and over 61% of US businesses migrated their workloads to the cloud in 2020 alone. Obviously, that type of demand produces an increasing demand for knowledgeable workers who know how to use cloud computing and cloud services. Today I wanted to go over specifically AWS EC2. I know that many of you have probably used some service offered by Amazon before and might be familiar with their many service offerings. EC2 is their enterprise cloud computing service, open to everyone. They offer a pretty awesome free tier which allows you to start up instance and play with some cool cloud computing tools. By the end of the video, you will learn how to navigate the EC2 dashboard, start, stop, and terminate EC2 instances, and you will learn the basics of cloud computing. Remember, if you're looking for a particular section, feel free to use the timestamps in the description. Alright, let's jump in. So first things first, to get started, make sure you go to sign up for a free AWS account at www.aws.amazon.com/free. Once you did that, you can come back to the video and you can watch us get started. So the first thing we're going to see right here is the EC2 dashboard. You can find this at console.aws.amazon.com. The EC2 dashboard is going to be your home for everything having to do with AWS EC2. As you can see here, you can see every service categorized under that cloud computing umbrella. As I said before, you can see instances, instance launch templates, spot requests, savings plans, images, EBS, network and security, load balancing, and auto scaling. We'll touch on some of those things today. We just want to get our feet wet with cloud computing. Alright, so as we can see here, I'm looking right here at my resources section of the EC2 dashboard. And this just tells you some basic stuff about your account. Right now, I have one instance running out of a total of 1 instances. I literally just booted up this account, so there's really not much on there. I have one volume, and that volume is going to be connected to that instance right there. I also have one key pair so that I can authenticate with the host and SSH into it. And I have a few security groups in there. We can talk about that. I don't have any Elastic IPs. We can go over that in another episode. I don't think I'll be touching on that, but I might. So how about we get started and launch an EC2 instance. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit launch instance and launch instance again. Now what you see when you first pop this up right here is you're going to see different images that you can use with your instance. So for example, if I wanted to use, I almost always want to use Ubuntu right here. So I have the LTS for Ubuntu, it's 20.04. And if I wanted to start an instance with that OS on it, I could just hit select. Now you can choose x86 or ARM. I prefer to use x86, but totally up to you. Now as we can see here, we also have the AWS Marketplace right here. These are images that have, that are uploaded by manufacturers in order to make it easier on developers trying to use their products. For example, if I wanted to look up OpenVPN, I can see in the AWS Marketplace that we can spin up an OpenVPN access server right here without having to configure OpenVPN itself. It'll just be ready to go when we launch it. It's pretty handy when you think about it. Now what I wanted to do is I wanted to start an Ubuntu instance right here, and we're gonna make sure that whenever we're starting an instance, for this particular video at least, we're looking for free tier eligible. That indicates that we can use Ubuntu for free on EC2. So let's go ahead and click on that. Next, what you're gonna see is you're gonna see instance types. Now instance types are going to depend on what you're going to be running. So as you can see here, this is free tier eligible because this is a T2 micro instance. So micro instances are eligible for the AWS free tier for 12 months or up to 750 hours per month. So once you hit 750 hours of micro instance use, then you're going to start paying, which honestly, if you can hit that 750 hours, that's a lot of cloud computing that you're doing, a lot of testing, so good on you. Now another one that we also have down here is we have the T4G micro. It's also free tier available. It's not available in my region, unfortunately. The main difference here is that you get up to 5 gigs of network speed with this T4, and then up here you also, I think it caps out around 750 megabytes. So this network is going to be a little slower when we're pulling down updates. So how about we go ahead and configure some instance details. Now when you click on next, what is going to happen is you're going to see this little configure instance details page. This is where you can tweak things that are very basic, and you can also say how you want it to shut down. You can either terminate it or you can stop it after you shut down. Now if you choose to terminate, obviously everything's going to be deleted and the instance is going to be deleted after you shut it down. This is good for a one-off type thing. You can also choose the network. It'll create a default network for you. You can tweak that later on. I'm not going to go over that much. You got a subnet, and then you can auto assign a public IP. Now if you don't have an elastic IP connected to this instance, the IP is going to change whenever you turn off and turn the instance back on, so just keep that in mind. I actually had a Minecraft server that was running on the free tier as a project, and whenever I turned it off it would assign a new IP, so that was a little inconvenient. Just so you know that that's what the free tier brings. Alright, so I'm going to look at everything else. Everything else looks good, and we're going to move on. Now we're going to look at the storage, because the free tier allows you to get up to 30 gigs of EBS storage or magnetic storage. Honestly, these machines are running Ubuntu. Ubuntu doesn't take up a lot of space at all. So what we're probably going to do is I'm going to put this at 10. Whoops, not 10, 20. So I'm going to put this at 10, and this is going to make a volume under this right here. So next we can add some tags. Now I usually just add tags if I want to add a name to it. So let's add this AWS EC2 free, and that'll just add a name to the instance so that we know exactly what it is. Next we're going to look at the security groups. Now right here, as you can see, every time that you launch a new instance, it's going to automatically try and make a new security group. You can also select an existing security group. It's up to you. We're just going to make a new one so that you guys can see how to do it. Now there are different rules that you can add. In order for us to access our instance over SSH, we're going to need to enable that port. So if you want, you can use my IP. I would definitely recommend it. It'll find your IP automatically. I'm not going to do that because then it'll show you my IP, but it'll find your IP range automatically. It'll apply that, and then you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to SSH from your home network. I'm going to do anywhere. By the time you see this video, the instance is already going to be deleted and you won't be able to do anything with it. I would not recommend this for security, but I'm just demonstrating here how EC2 works. Alright, let's hit review and launch. Now let's just make sure we see everything. Of course right here it says improve your instance security. Obviously anyone can SSH into this host, so it's not secure. But we're just using this for demo purposes. We look at the instance type here, T2 micro, with 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory, and the storage is EBS only. We'll talk more about EBS later on. Now the network performance is going to be low to moderate, and that's because we used the T2 micro instead of the T4 micro or T3 micro. Now as we see here, these is the security group we also applied right here. Instance details, we come on down. This is everything we saw on the first screen. Storage, we're going to have 10 gigs. I don't really know why they have a GIB. It should just be GB, but anyway. And then the tags we created as well. So this is our tag that we created. The name is AWS EC2 free. Let's go ahead and launch. Now this next step is going to be, it's going to ask you to create a public key and a private key pair. what this key pair does is it sits on your computer, and whenever you try and SSH into a host that you made, SSH terminal is going to go look for the SSH key. It's going to find a matching private key, and once it finds the private key that matches with the public key that you created, it's going to say, okay, we're good to go, we can SSH. Right now I have an SSH key set up already on this machine. You can also create a new key pair, or you can proceed without a key pair, which I would obviously not recommend. So we have the default key pair, that's just the name of my key pair there, and we're going to hit launch instance. Let's take a minute and wait for it to launch. Alright, it says your instances are now launching. Let's take a look at instances. Very nice. This is the one that we started right here. It's AWS EC2 free. Let's go ahead and click on that. And you can see right here the public IP address. Now that's important because that's what we're going to use in order to SSH into it. Now right now the state is still pending. Let's reload it. Sometimes it takes a minute. Alright, awesome, and it's running. So let's take a look in how we're going to SSH into this host. So I'm going to grab the public IP, and we're going to go into the Windows terminal or PowerShell. It's up to you. The default username is going to Ubuntu, and then we're going to put that IP address, and we're going to hit enter. Now it's going to say, are you sure you want to add this host to your host list? We're going to say yes. And say, alright, permanently add to the list. And now we are in. As you can see, the username, Ubuntu, and that's our IP right there. Now usually when you first launch an instance, you're going to have to install some updates. So let's go ahead and do that. Sudo apt update. Now that we have the updates all set up, it says 20 packages can be upgraded. So what we're going to do now is we're going to upgrade it. Sudo apt upgrade. I'm going to hit Y for yes. And looks like it completed successfully. You can see here right now it says done. Alright, so now technically we have a Ubuntu instance running on AWS Cloud for free, and we can use this for anything that we want. You can, pretty much has any installation tool, apt, snap, it has anything that you can think of that you need. So let's actually install a program, for example. Sudo apt install docker.io. Now this installs Docker. We're going to hit yes, and Docker is being downloaded to this machine. Alright, so it looks like it's completed. Let's actually take a look, and we'll do sudo docker ps, and you can see right here we don't have any running containers, but it is up and running. That was quick. That's free. I like free stuff. Alright, let us go ahead and shut this down. And if you ever want to shut down an instance, what you're going to come up here is you're going to come up to this instance state. You're going to click on it. You're going to hit stop instance. Or, of course, you could force a reboot or terminate the instance altogether. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to terminate the instance, since we don't need this instance anymore. We've used had its purpose, it's all done, we don't need it anymore. I'm going to hit terminate, and what that is going to do is that it's going to take this into this shutting down phase and then eventually termination. Now after you terminate an instance, all the data on there is going to be erased. Any programs obviously are going to be erased unless you created a snapshot or a backup. Alright, now that you know how to start an EC2 instance, let's take a look at some of the other stuff that we can do on EC2. So now that we've got started with creating an instance on EC2, let's take a look at some other stuff that we can do on EC2. As we talked about before, we have the AWS Marketplace, which has a lot of different software on there. It's super helpful if you're looking for a specific app or program that you want to run on your server. Let's actually take a look at that now. If we were looking for example, an OpenVPN access server, if we wanted to run OpenVPN on a free tier, which is totally possible, then we could create our own VPN on AWS using this image from the AWS Marketplace. So we can actually do that, and I'll show you guys how this works. I'm going to hit launch instance, going to go to AWS Marketplace, and I'm going to type in OpenVPN. Now this one right up here, it also says free tier eligible. This is the one we're looking for because technically OpenVPN is not free. OpenVPN is not free after you hit 2 connected devices. So for example, if you wanted to spin this up as an instance in AWS EC2, you would not be paying anything as long as you select the free tier instance types that we talked about earlier, and as long as you don't connect more than 2 devices to your OpenVPN server. So let's go ahead and select that image right here. And this is a breakdown of the cost as well. Now this total right here, this is only if you have over 2 people, sorry. We're going to hit continue. And like we did before, we're looking for this T2 micro free tier eligible instance type. Next, we're going to configure details. We don't need much storage here. We're going to add a tag. And that's going to be OpenVPN. That's the name of our instance. We're going to configure the security group. Now as you can see here, OpenVPN auto generates the security group for you. So right here, as we can see, they've already opened the necessary ports for this instance to run OpenVPN. All we need to do is change the SSH so that we can SSH into the host. Like I said before, I could put it at my IP, but I'd rather just do anywhere since we're going to be terminating this instance rather quickly. We're going to hit review and launch. These are the ports we have open by default because of OpenVPN. These are the instance details right here. Pretty much the same thing as we saw in the first window. And then of course the storage, we kept it at the default 8 gigs of storage. And the tags. So let's go ahead and launch this. And once again, they're going to ask us for our key. We're going to go with the default key pair, which is one I have already uploaded. And now we wait. And it says your instances are now launching. So let's go back up here, and we see that it's still pending. So let's just wait for that to show up. Alright, well it looks like our OpenVPN instance is up and running, so let's go ahead and SSH into it. So I'm going to copy the public IP. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to hit yes. And we are in. Now I'm SSH'd into our OpenVPN instance, and it's going to ask you a few questions before you get it started. Basically, it's just going to configure the OpenVPN server. Alright, looks like it's up. Now what we want to do is we want to change the password into the web UI. So we're going to do sudo passwd OpenVPN, and I'm just going to do password for the password. Obviously don't do password. And the password has been updated successfully. So now our VPN server is all set, ready to go. All we have to do is close this terminal out, and I am going to take the IP/admin, and we should be good to go. Oh, page is not working. Let's try this. We're going to hit continue, and there we go. This is our OpenVPN server. admin is default, and then, oh wait, I'm sorry, OpenVPN is default. And we're going to type in password. And we're going to sign in. We're going to agree to the EULA. And here we go. We just booted up our own VPN server within like, I don't know, 2 minutes. It's pretty cool. Now that just shows you that, you know, AWS free tier, you can do a lot of stuff on there. So it's handy learning it. So anyway, that was the AWS Marketplace. Let's take a look now at launch templates. I'm going to terminate this instance since we don't need it anymore. Let's take a look at EC2 launch templates. Now what a launch template is it's basically what we did when we created an instance and we went through all those steps in order to create that instance. What this does is you create it once and then you can basically just click a button and you can launch an instance with those pre-configured settings. So let's actually hit create launch template here to take a look. Now over here is the launch template itself. It looks a lot like when we were creating the instance, the types of stuff you put in. So I'm just going to name this demo. What we're going to look at, demo version. There we go. You can add template tags, source template, machine images, instance types. You can give a default key pair, a network, storage, resource tags, and network interfaces. You can also look at advanced details. And this is great because if you have several people using the same account, or you have several people in a permissions group, you can enforce launch templates to be used and make those launch templates secure based on, you know, what type of software you're running. Or you can make sure that everyone's using the same image, and you can really have control over what types of images and instances are deployed in your EC2. So that's just a little rundown on the launch template. I don't have too much to go over today about that. Last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about EBS volumes. So basically EBS volumes are the storage attached to your instance. If you come down here and you look at Elastic Block Store and you go to volumes, these are going to be your current EBS volumes that you have. Now this one right here is the instance that I was running before called Linux Box. You guys didn't see me create that one, but I just basically created one to have always running. And as you can see down here, you can see the description of the volume it's using. I have 8 gigs of storage being used. If you ever want to extend storage in an instance, or take a snapshot of the drive and restore from a snapshot, you can select that volume, come up here, and you can either modify, detach, change the I/O settings, add tags, or create a snapshot. Now what I want to show you is modifying volumes. So let's say we wanted to bump this up to 10. If I hit modify, it's going to ask me if I'm sure. I'm going to hit yes. And now this volume is going to be 10 gigabytes. I think it takes usually like 5 minutes. Oh, never mind. It's instant. Now as you can see, I don't have this volume encrypted. I could encrypt it if I wanted to. It also shows the state. Right now it's in use, and you can add alarms if the read or write goes over a certain threshold. We can take a look here and we could create a snapshot. Now this snapshot is basically a file history of the drive, so that if the drive ever gets corrupted, you still have this snapshot to restore it from. So I'm going to do a demo right here, and we're going to hit create snapshot. We're going to hit close. And then down here we're going to look at snapshots, and that snapshot is being created of the drive right now. If we ever wanted to restore that snapshot, we would just come in here and we would go to volumes, we click on that, and we hit restore snapshot. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on EC2 and how to use cloud computing for free. Learning EC2 is a great skill to have. A lot of companies are shifting towards AWS in particular for their cloud computing, and just having an understanding of how the dashboard works and how the services work. A lot of these services are, they have similar services across multiple cloud providers like Oracle, Azure, or Google Cloud. But it's just a great way to see how Amazon does it and how the AWS services all mesh together to form one cohesive product. So let me know in the comments how you thought this was. If you had any questions, you could ask me there too. If I missed anything, let me know. Give me a shout out in the comment, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.